Hello, class. Hopefully you are staying safe, taking care of yourself and your family. Taking care of yourself and your family. This is lesson 13.1, which is graphing linear equations. And to start with, this is a warm-up to substitute in the x so that we get y on these. So the first one, if we put in -1, we get -2 minus 3 will give us -5, and so on. So we can put 0 in there, we would get -3. We put 1 in, we would get 2 minus 3. 2 would be 4 minus 3 is 1. We can do the same thing for all of these. Again, putting this in is a -1, which is +1, so we will get 2. Then we will get 1, 0, -1. And we can do that with these as well, so you can see those answers. These are going to be linear functions that we are going to be talking about today. So our essential question in lesson 13.1 is, how can you recognize a linear equation and how can you draw its graph? One of the ways that we can do this is we can copy this table. We can plot two solution points and draw a line exactly through those 2 points. So I'm going to use 0. So if I put in 0 here, I would get 0 minus 2 is -2. So one of my points is 0, -2. And you will see down here, I plotted 0, -2. When I put in 2, that gave me 8. Minus 2 is 6, so I put in the xy of x2, y6, over 2 up 6. I connected these 2 points that I just did, and that is my line. You can put in any number you want for these, and you will get the same thing. Over here, we did 0 again. That's a pretty easy one, so 0 plus 5 is 5. And then the opposite of 5 plus 5 is 0. Now you look at this one, and you will see here is 0, 5, which was our first point. Here is 5, 0. Draw that line. That will give us our solution. Now, it also asks for another point. You can see this doesn't hit exactly a point, but this one does. So if I were to put in 1 in this solution, we would get 4 minus 2 is 2. So 1, 2 is the solution. If I were to put in 2 on this, so -2 plus 5 is 3. You can see that point as well. So our key idea, a linear equation is an equation whose graph is a line. Has to be a straight line. The points on the line are the solutions of the equation. So you can use this graph below to show the solutions of a linear equation. So the graph below represents y equals x plus 1. So when x is -1, if I put that in here, I get that, 0. If it's 0, I get 1, and if it's 2, I get 3. When you do these, I recommend you doing a negative number, 0, and a positive number. You can use any one you want, but maybe smaller is better because that way you don't have to have a huge graph. And you can see the graph over here. The pair is x, y, so we've got -1, 0 right here. We got 0, 1, which is right here, and then we got 2, 3, which is right there. So again, a linear equation is a graph, is a line, straight line. So we're going to graph y equals -2x plus 1. I'm going to try to use -1, 0, and 1. When I put in this one, I get -2 times -1 plus 1. A negative times a negative is a positive, so I get 2 plus 1, which is 3. And so my pair is -1, 3. In the second one, I put in 0, so this is 0 plus 1. I get 0 as my point for x, 1 is my 1 for that one. If I put in this one, I get -2 times 1 plus 1, which is -2 plus 1, which is -1. So I get 1, -1. Those three are my points. I'm going to try to graph that here real quick. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, make that a little bigger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. -1, 3, which is that point, 0, 1, which is right there, and 1, -1, which is right there. And then I can connect that line. Hopefully it's a lot straighter than mine. Yours is, so it will look something like that. By the way, it would be really smart of you to take a straight line, a straight edge, and then make your line like so. Our second key idea in lesson 13.1 is graphing horizontal, like this, and vertical, like this. So the graph of y equals b is a horizontal line passing through 0, b. So 0, whatever number this is, that's a line at y equals 3. The graph of x equals a is a vertical line passing through a, 0. So for example, if it's x equals 2, I would go over to 2, draw my straight line up and down there. Horizontal, vertical. Y equals is horizontal, x equals is vertical. This is y equals 3, -3, sorry. So I know it is going to be horizontal because it is y equals. So in my graph here, y equals -3 is a horizontal line passing through 0, 3. And what we would draw is right here. Here's 0, -3. Draw a straight line through that. This second example, graph x equals 2. I know that since it's x, it's going to be a vertical line up and down. It will be at 2. Again, vertical line through 2, 0. When I get there, there's 2, 0, goes straight up and down. So again, horizontal is y equals, vertical x equals. Here are some other examples that you can do. If you have a graphing calculator at home, or you want to find a place to graph these equations on your Chromebook, you could very easily do that to check this. But again, you could put in different numbers into here. -1 is 3. -1 is -3. 0 is 0, and you can plot those. When I come over here, I see x equals -4, so I know that that's going to be a vertical line up and down at -4. This is y equals -1.5, so I'm going to go down to -1.5, and it will be a vertical line. Here are those graphs that you could have done. Again, 0, 0 works. We can say -2, 6 works, and we can say 2, 6 works. We can also say 1, 3 works, and you can see in their graph it's right in the middle there. And we can do that. Again, you should always have a positive number, 0, and a negative, but you can choose which ones you want to use. So one of the things we might be able to do is a problem that looks like this. The wind speed y in miles per hour of a tropical storm is y equals 2x plus 66, where x is the number of hours after the storm enters the Gulf of Mexico. So graph the equation. Again, I can put in, this one is a little different. We would not have negative hours, okay? So we would not have a negative hours. So our graph all has to be positive. It could be at 0 when it actually enters. If I put in 0, we would get 66. 1 hour later, we would get 68, and so on. So that becomes this, okay? And then it says a tropical storm becomes a hurricane when the wind speeds are at least 74 miles per hour. Well, here's my first thing that I have to do now. I'm going to graph that. Notice it's not negative, because we cannot have negative hours. So it's going to start at 0 and go up. We will just have positive numbers. Now, also look down here. It means that there's a part missing. So this is a little misleading sometimes. But when it becomes 74, you can see here is 74. So there is 4 hours later. would be our answer for that. So when does a storm become a hurricane? 4 hours after it enters the Gulf. Again, the three things that we talked about in this lesson, a linear equation is a equation that forms a line. You should use a negative number, 0, and a positive number to substitute in. A horizontal line is going to be y equals, and a vertical line will be x equals. Again, I would check out the notes if needed, do the practice, and make sure you answer. Check your answers, excuse me, and you could also do the problems in the book. The odd ones are in the back. Hopefully you understand this, but if not, shoot me an email. We will talk to you soon. Stay safe.